I kicked my desk. Anyway, I have found something, and I've been sitting on this for a while, and after experiencing this, I don't think I will ever be the same. I mean that. Like, I've covered a lot of things on this channel, but I don't think anything has ever or will ever mess me up as bad as this 2014 movie that I found. And what the strange part is that I don't think anyone's really talking about it. From what I've found on YouTube, like there's a couple movie reviews and stuff, but no one's really in conversation about the 2014 movie titled Tusk. It's possibly the worst movie I've ever seen in my life, and not in the sense of production value or casting or even acting. In all regards to that, it's pretty dang good. But the concept and the premise and the direction is so bizarre. I've never seen anything of this caliber before, and it needs to be shared. So honestly, let's just I can't talk about it without showing you guys. So honestly, let's just get into it.
If I die of laughter during this segment, I don't want you to feel bad. I want you all to know that I died happy because this video is the greatest thing that ever happened to me.
You seen how many hits he has? It's up to like 30-something million.
So in order to really experience the story of Tusk, we first have to get into some of our characters. And so the first character I want you to meet is Wallace. Wallace is a podcaster. Him and his best friend Teddy sort of have a podcast together, and the premise is that Wallace goes all across the country and he talks to these crazy, weird, interesting people, and then he comes back, he talks to his friend Teddy. Wallace explains those people to Teddy, who has no idea. But they're watching this crazy video where this kid is sort of doing this weird trickery with this katana, and he accidentally cuts his leg off. And so Wallace is going to leave the United States, and he's going to go to Canada to talk to this kid, and then he'll bring it back, and him and Teddy will talk about it on the podcast. And I think it goes without saying that Wallace's trip is going to be very, very different than what he expects.
He's got more hits than I do. I'm kind of in a weird way jealous. I don't need both legs. What am I? I'm not running marathons.
Oh, don't speak too soon. When Wallace is in the airport, sort of going into Canada, there's this really funny scene. I actually, unironically, really enjoy it. It's pretty great.
Canadian doesn't get sad. Sadness was made by the USA.
Oh, come on. What does that mean?
Take off, it's true. Right there on our flag. It's right there when you look at it and you see past that sacred maple leaf. You know what you see?
White wall.
You see that in America, you may be red, white, and blue. But in Canada, you're red, white, but never blue, eh? Ever.
I can't argue with that. That's so funny.
Hey.
Uh-oh, kid killed himself. How's Wallace gonna find a story now? He's stuck in Canada. Well, thankfully, he goes to the bathroom. And he finds a paper written by this man named Howe. That's not his real name. Put up about how he's an old sailor who has all these stories that he wants to share, but he's old and decrepit and immobilized, and he just wants someone to talk to.
Hello, I'm an old man who has enjoyed a long and storied life at sea. I know I do not wish to spend my remaining years alone in a giant house, not when I have such stories to share.
Perfect for Wallace, right? No, never go to an old man's house in the middle of nowhere under any circumstances.
Could I interest you in some tea?
You can.
And never drink the dude's tea. Are you kidding me? So Wallace goes pee again, because who doesn't like to pee? And he finds these sort of creepy, weird dolls all over the bathroom. So naturally, like the smart person Wallace is, he leaves immediately. No, he doesn't. So Howard starts telling Wallace about all these crazy stories that he has as an old man. He talks about how he met Ernest Hemingway. He talks about how he was stranded at sea and he washed up on this island with a walrus that he named Mr. Tusk that ended up saving his life. Yeah, that's gonna be important. So Wallace starts getting a little tired. You know, because he drank the dude's laced tea. And Wallace collapses and faints. And Howard says this.
There. It'll be all right. It'll be all right, Mr. Tusk.
Yep. Here we go. So Wallace wakes up and Howard gives him this bull crap about how he was bitten by a brown recluse, and so he fainted, and then the doctor came in, looked at him, nursed him back to health, and Howard says that the doctor, who doesn't exist, said that it would be best for Wallace to recuperate in Howard's house rather than the hospital because, hospitals have germs, and Howard's house is sanitized, all day.
Why am I still here? Why am I in the hospital?
Well, hospitals carry diseases, so Dr. Musi felt it would best if you were to stay here since the room is sanitized all day. Why, it'd be best if you recuperate here.
Which makes no sense. But hey, Wallace is now stuck in this creepy house, and also he can't feel his legs. Why? It's gone.
Holy shit. There's no leg there.
Doesn't appear to be.
His leg got cut off. Uh-oh, SpaghettiOs. So at dinner that night, Wallace does probably the first and only smart thing he will ever do in the entire movie. He puts all the pieces together and realizes that Howard is crazy, lying, and probably cut his leg off.
There was no spider, was there?
So he starts to freak out, naturally, as all of us would.
Let me out of this chair, you psycho!
And then all of a sudden, through Wallace's, screaming and terror, Howard just stands up.
Let me out, you old f***ing nutbag!
And I gotta admit, my first time viewing this, it was kind of heartbreaking because my only hope that I had for Wallace ever getting out of this was the fact that, Wallace was missing a leg. Like that stinks. But the other guy is old, he's in a wheelchair, he can't chase after you, right? So Wallace maybe, possibly could stand a fighting chance. But as soon as Howard stands up, I'm like, no, it's over. And it is. So Howard explains his big master plan to Wallace.
Perhaps it would be best in this our burgeoning relationship to reveal our hearts with absolute candor. For some time now, I've been constructing a very realistic walrus suit. And I believe with just a few minor modifications it will fit you perfectly.
Oh, sweet Jesus.
Why are you doing this?
To solve a riddle older than the Sphinx. Is man indeed a walrus at heart?
What? No. No one has ever asked that before. So Wallace wakes up in the living room, and now that the plot is sort of just fully out in the air and open, his name is Wallace. That's so funny. But Wallace wakes up and he hears his cell phone ringing. So naturally, of course, he goes over there, and he does. I don't really blame Wallace for doing what he did because this is just kind of a horror movie trope that has always bothered me, where instead of calling the police, they call their best friend and they say, "Oh my God, I'm being held captive. Call the cops."
Okay, just get here, okay? Call the cops.
You can also call the police on this magical thing you have called the cell phone. But like the idiot that Wallace is, he calls his girlfriend Allie and his best friend Teddy. And of course, they don't pick up, but he leaves them a scary, eerie voicemail, and then he gets knocked out by Howard.
Your life as you knew it is over, Mr. Brighton. So if you wish to continue living, you will be a walrus or you will be nothing at all.
Now, back to the real world. You might be wondering, why would his girlfriend and his best friend both not be able to pick up the phone at the same time? I think you already know the answer. We get this weird point of view shot where Allie is crying, and she's kind of in this abusive relationship. It's definitely a thing that happens in the real world. People are in relationships like this where She loves him enough to stay with him, even though he is cheating on her. Wallace is cheating on Allie. So she loves him enough to stay with him, but hates him enough to cheat on him back with his best friend Teddy. In the morning, Teddy and Allie do call him back, but they're a little bit too late because it's surgery time. During this scene, we kind of get a flashback, or not a flashback, but kind of an insight into what Howard's childhood life looked like. And I'll admit, it sucks. He was put into a boys' home where no one really loved him, a lot of like sexual abuse type stuff. So yeah, rough life. But honestly, who cares? Because it doesn't justify anything that he's about to do.
Man is a savage animal, Mr. Brighton. Better to be a walrus.
Wow. That is horrifying. So we are about to witness the full transformation scene, and I don't know how to put it into words. So just just watch. Just watch.
The sun was shining on the sea, shining with all his might. He did his very best to make the billows smooth and bright. And this was odd because it was the middle of the night. There, Mr. Tusk. There, I understand. It's a very hard to be. The elephant of the deep blue sea. Stop it. Walruses never cry!
Oh, you're still here. Why? What do you want me to say? Something funny? Some kind of zany joke? I got nothing, okay? I have nothing to say to this. Oh, by the way, we also still have 45 minutes left of this movie. So in one of the most horrifying scenes in the entire movie, Howard sort of pulls Wallace by a chain into this little tank that he's created and forces Wallace to swim because, you know, real walruses swim. You can't argue with that logic. And underneath the water, Wallace kind of finds a bunch of old skeletons of past Mr. Tusks that I guess have failed. And it's gross. That's all. Teddy and Allie are officially on the hunt for Wallace. And throughout this hunt, they end up meeting my favorite character in the entire movie. Throughout this just mess of a movie, throughout this monstrosity, all the heartbreak and the horror that I've had to experience, this character, Guy Lapointe, played by Johnny Depp, that's right, Captain Jack Sparrow, Johnny Depp, this character is my solace. This character is my fortitude. This character is just my home and my rock and the only thing that brings me peace. I love Guy Lapointe.
I'm Guy Lapointe. That is my name, Guy Lapointe.
But Guy Lapointe is sort of like a private investigator almost. They don't really specify, but he is hunting a serial killer.
But for the last 10 years of my life, I have been hunting an animal who is doing the masquerade as the man. I have been hunting this Howard Howe.
So Howard and Wallace have this cute little moment where they swim together. I'm pretty sure Howard's naked, but you know we don't have to talk about it. And Howard makes this sudden realization that
You must be terribly hungry by now.
so he gives him some Chick-fil-A. No, I'm kidding. He gives him a fish.
That is a mackerel.
Could you imagine, though? Like, this is a spicy deluxe meal with Swiss cheese instead of pepper jack. But no, he gives him a mackerel, and Wallace just straight up eats it. Which, I don't care how hungry you are. His digestive system, right? His digestive system is still human. He can't just eat raw fish. He'll get sick. But, I mean, that's not the most unrealistic part of the movie, so I'll just leave it behind, okay? But Howard shares this story with the actual Mr. Tusk, how when he washed up on what he calls Ponder Rock, he was with Mr. Tusk, and like they're living, and like, you know, the walrus kept him alive or whatever. But unfortunately, Howard had to make a terrible choice where he killed the walrus and ate it in order to survive because he was so hungry. And then, of course, like 2 minutes after he kills the walrus, he's saved by a rescue team. So in his mind, he just killed the walrus for no reason. So he's got this sort of survivor's guilt about the whole situation. And two things. First of all, you don't just kill a walrus. At least not with your bare hands, you know? If he washed up on Ponder Rock with nothing but the clothes on his back and a 50 caliber machine gun, then like maybe I could swing it. But not just with his bare hands. Killing a walrus is very much so easier said than done. And two, a walrus is like complete blubber, right? You know, you would have to have a real big knife. You'd have to cut like a foot into the walrus before you got to really any sort of meat that could be digestible. But it looks to me like he just cut, you know, like an inch or two in, and he's just eating this, you know, full course meal, which isn't how the anatomy of a walrus works, Howard. But again, that's not the most unrealistic part of the movie. Or maybe it is. The more and more you think about it, the less and less the movie makes sense. But long story short, Howard has survivor's guilt, and he wants to give Mr. Tusk sort of a round two, a fighting chance. So that's why he's turning Wallace, and we can presume he's done this with others, into, you know, a new walrus so that they can fight to the death, and he can finally be killed by Mr. Tusk so that he's sort of, he feels better about himself. So yeah, the dude's insane. So with the help of Guy Lapointe, they end up tracking down where Howard and Wallace are located.
So, we are about to find your friend and the dangerous man who took him. These are guns.
I don't want one. You take them.
What kind of American are you?
I just want to be straight up. The last 15 minutes of this movie is the weirdest of the entire thing. So just hold on to your hats.
I was rescued from the island of Ponder Rock a mere hour after I butchered my sweet savior walrus in order to live. I have marked this occasion for 15 years now by allowing my flippered friend a fighting chance he never had. So, you will fight me, Mr. Walrus, or you will die!
So Howard is ready for battle. And this fight scene is kind of just them pushing their walrus bodies against each other. And Howard's sort of logic for this fight, and sort of the movie's logic for the fight as well, is that the only way for Wallace to prevail, the only way for Wallace to live, is to kill Howard, thus going full walrus.
So just as I had to kill you on Ponder Rock, you have a terrible choice to make here. You have to kill me if you want to live. And if you live, it will be as a walrus, which you almost are. So, either you go full walrus, or this.
So he either goes full walrus with no hope of ever being human again, or he dies. And then there's this weird moment where Howard sort of emerges from his own walrus suit, and he's got a machete inside. So I don't know if he just had a machete just chilling inside the suit with him, because if he did, how did he not, like, you know, cut himself? But hold on, because Teddy, Allie, and Guy Lapointe are on the case. They're a little late, though, because when they finally track him down to the exact room that he's in, they are there just at the right moment to witness Wallace just completely and brutally murdering Howard. Awkward reunion, am I right? And so now he has gone full walrus with no hope of ever being a man again. Because, you know, plastic surgery and therapy don't exist in this world, apparently. You know, and I know he would never be fully human again. He would still be missing both his legs. Guy Lapointe early in the movie talks about how, like, you know, his tongue has been ripped out, so he would never be able to speak. But it's like, you could still at least try, right? Maybe he could get some sort of life, like anything, right? But it's fine because he gets the second best option because Guy Lapointe comes up with him and he points a shotgun at him and he kills Wallace just on the spot. And then they roll the credits. Wait, no. What?
Wallace? We're here.
Why? Yeah, they put him in a zoo where he just sort of accepts his new life as a walrus. You know, Teddy and Allie come visit, they throw him a fish, you know, it's real cute. And now we roll credits. Wow. Yeah, this still really messes me up. Watching this movie showed me what it means to be a man. This movie is on Netflix, so if you want to watch this movie, you don't. If you thought that this was a movie you wanted to see, you don't want to see it. Honestly, I just want to go take a shower now. You know, maybe get baptized. We'll see where the day takes me. Thanks for coming with me on this horrific adventure. Let's never do it again, all right? If you liked this video, keep it to yourself. Don't like, don't subscribe, definitely don't share. Please, God, don't share this video. No one needs to see this. But I'll see you guys in 6 months.